I've been on a hiatus recently. I've been day trading, swing trading for about 6 years now as part of the GameStop craze, and that kind of hooked me. And before work, for about 2 hours every day since then, I've been doing day trading of every variety. Now, GameStop was my first degenerate gambling experience, I would say, and I came out pretty decent. I'm not rich by any means, but it was a nice bonus. I was able to put a down payment on a house. That said, since then, I've lost probably about half of that just trying to figure out a steady strategy. And some of the strategies I've learned have been from discords, they've been from YouTube channels, and I haven't been able to pick up and stick to one strategy. And the reason for it is because I haven't found a strategy I liked, I think. So I've been kind of sort of bouncing around, and I'm not sure who to trust. There's so many scammers out there. And I can tell you, I've been in 6 different paid discords, and I can tell you half of them are scammers, and I think a lot of them more are not profitable. I've only found one, maybe one and a half, where I really sort of trust them, and I think they're building a good community. But I can tell you, most of the ones that I feel like are close to scams are the ones where they're trading really small cap stocks, where there's very, very few shares traded on the daily. So just to give you an example of one of the stocks that I traded last year and a couple times in the past, this is called Genius Group Limited. This is an interesting stock. It's really a garbage company. If you look at it, they have these lifestyle universities scattered across tropical areas, so you could go there when you don't know what to do with your life. They do some other just sort of random stuff with AI. Pretty much I don't get the sense that they're a steady business, and their numbers prove that. And you can look at their current stock price at, I mean, what is this? It's Yeah, they're going to bankruptcy. That's point one is their current stock value. And you can look back here. I mean, they used to be pretty valuable, but stock split after stock split after stock split, they've they've gone from 367. Of course, they didn't start up here. They started much smaller, but of course the splits happen and then the history gets updated. But yeah, now they're worthless. They're going towards bankruptcy. But this is the kind of stock that these discords push you to trade for, and you can make money doing it, but you have to be very, very, very careful. So here's the formula that all these small cap stock companies go through. So first, you have to desire more money. That's every company in the public stock market. Second, you have to have some sort of uh, catalyst. And the reason why you want to have a catalyst is because you need to drum up interest in your stock, and you need to make it so that this volume spike down here, I'll show you, hold on. You need to get something that's interesting enough so that you're going to get more people to buy in. This is volume that I'm looking at down here. You need to get people to buy in. You need to get them to buy in and stay in for a little bit. Now, let me go to 2025. This company's been very interesting. They've tried every strategy under the sun, really, to get people to buy in. So I traded it around this point. What this company had is, I mean, anytime you have a stock that's going like this, it's not a good company. You're going to have people shorting it. There have been people shorting this company since its inception on the stock market, stock exchange. These shorts, they just let it sit. They don't worry about it. They just keep shorting it, because they know this company is going to go bankrupt eventually. So why even stress about it? So when it gets real low like this, in this case, it got to 0.38, zero point 0.4, that range. Then the CEO, the company founder, they start thinking of ways. All right, we got to bust the shorts out of here for a little bit, and we need to find a way to make some money. The way they do that is they drum up interest in the stock. What Genius Group Limited here, GNS, is the stock ticker, did here is they created a new crypto dividend. So now if you're short the stock, you need to now go set up this portal so you can pay the crypto dividend on those stocks that you shorted. That's such a hassle. And so on that news, uh, of course, day traders bought, like myself at the time, we bought in thinking that it's going to cause a mini short squeeze, and it did. It actually, it went from, gosh, if you were in really early to zero point 0.4, zero point 0.5, all the way up to 1.92. You could more than triple your initial investment if you got in at the right point, and there's a couple other plays you could have got in as well. Why does the short squeeze stop eventually, though? Because remember, these are degenerate garbage companies and they want to raise money. That's all it is. So, what happens somewhere around here, and in fact, let me check my notes. They will have an offering. Now, what an offering is saying that they're going to raise, let's say, $30 million, and they're going to do that by selling you stock. They're going to sell stock so that there's more shares, and anytime you throw more shares into the mix, what you're going to see then is you're going to see a steady decline as people exit their positions. They realize, oh, this is no longer long-term hold; it's just a fundraising event. Blah 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 blah. There's nothing substantial behind this. You get some little pops in here, as the shorts continue to slowly squeeze or whatever happens, right? But the point here is once it reaches a high enough point, the company does a fundraising event. This is literally just like a GoFundMe through the public stock market. And then wham, the stock goes straight down. So this is a very common strategy. And the way that people are successful with this is you got to be able to read the press release quickly, and you got to be able to know when to get in and when to get out. I hated this strategy because everything is so inconsistent. This company has done it so many times. I saw this name pop up a few times. So here's another case. You see the volume increase. There was some catalyst, but it wasn't enough to stick and cause a short squeeze. So whatever it was at that time. And it happens again and again. Their latest, they had a special they've had multiple special dividends and other attempts, and there is, like I said, money to be made, but it is very inconsistent is what I've noticed with these small caps. And I've never quite mastered the art of this. So that was two of my Discord channels where they were very focused on small cap. And then there's another Discord that I joined where they tried to swing trade things like, these big tech stocks, AVGO, stuff like that. Now, the problem here is I always got in during the choppiest markets. I'm sure these Discords were successful in the past, but to give you an example, here I'll go to QQQ for example. There were times when this became really choppy. So I'm on the daily chart, and you can see I have some lines drawn here. I was in one Discord right at the beginning of this chop. I joined, and of course, this is a perma bull Discord. They are not buying puts on anything. They're not doing any smart analysis. They just say, you know what, it's a slightly red day. We're going to buy calls, or it's a green day. It's going to be green the next day. We're going to buy calls. It's going to go up. But then I joined like somewhere in here. It's December. I was like, oh, I got Christmas bonus. I'm going to put that into the stock market. Oh, what does it do? It chops around. I lost thousands in this chop. And then by the time it cut under this line I have drawn, I was just out. I realized that they don't know what the heck they're talking about. They're still in calls. And, you know, I would have eventually made my money back if the calls were far enough out. And they just weren't. So I would have lost my original investment. In addition to paying $50 a month um, for that. So you have the small cap discords, you have the terrible permable discords. Then you have the penny stock discord where they're trading stock that are trading for fraction of cents, companies that are borderline bankruptcy. Like this will become one of those very soon. And actually it already is. So what Genius Group, what I was talking about earlier, now that they're in firm low penny territory, the only thing that you're looking for here, well, there's a couple things. You're looking to figure out when these little bounces are going to happen. So you can look at the volume, but you can also sort of guess. The way you guess is by is just by saying, "Oh, it's been a while," or you average down slowly over time. Like I said, I just didn't like this strategy. Another strategy was once they file for bankruptcy, you can actually expect a mini short squeeze. This is because the shorts are getting out because they know there's not much juice left to be squeezed. So they're getting out, they're taking their profits, and so you see a little bump. And in fact, it'll be something like this, and then we'll make money. Now the problem with these ultra low penny stock discords is they are dunking on their subscribers. This is I would call the scam discords, 100%. Because what I saw was very much like here's a mini spike right here. So the person making the calls would say, "Hey, this stock is going to go to the moon, get in and get out quickly, blah blah blah." But that was on this day, the second day, or the third day. But the day before, there's a volume spike. Before his call, there's a volume spike, and you could tell by their like when there was some transparency. You could tell by where they bought it. There's 100% they bought before their official call out, and so for these bankruptcy like these super low penny stocks, 100% scam, without a doubt. And in fact, there was one Discord. I won't name it because I don't want to get sued, but literally some of the documents that they would share about stocks to invest in these penny stocks, they would say at the bottom disclaimer that the company actually paid them to distribute that doc. So these are companies, they want to have an offering, they don't have a good catalyst, so they need to drum up attention and pay discords to actually send out these notices to buy the stock that this is the new call out. And so if you look at these discords, and this is the same with Twitter, with Telegram, like 9 times out of 10, these are scams. And so I've just learned that, small caps are not for me. And I've stuck to the bigger stocks. I've tried QQQ and SPY, like I said. And this is actually where I'm slowly finding success, but it's not because of the Discord. So I'll tell you another one. I was in an SPY day trading Discord, and they would share charts on a 1 minute chart, right? There's two separate Discords, and the lines never made sense. I'll give an example. It looked like they just took a crayon, they drew all these pretty lines, and they're just like, hey, look, okay, there's this algorithm going up, there's this algorithm going down. All right, now that the up algorithm is showing a pattern every time the up algorithm is done, then we go to the down algorithm. So you just wait for the break of the up algorithm. This Discord pissed me off to no end because it didn't make any sense. His instruction booklet said that uh, he is the only person that knows how to draw these algorithm lines. Okay, um, aren't you just drawing trend lines? And it actually turns out no, he's doing something special. And to be honest, to this day, I'm not sure if that person was scamming or not. They're still cranking out tons of cash from their Discord, and they're posting screenshots of them making money SPY day trading. And part of me wants to believe because they do know when to spot a big move, because they'll actually it's hard to say. They could just be always buying, but the timestamp clearly shows right before the big move happens. When they show their profits. But I mean, it could all be smoke and mirrors too. I don't know. Anyways, this I think it's a scam, but I'm still unsure. Algorithm lines, totally a legit thing, but the person's Discord here didn't make any sense. There's no published text around how to draw these. They were just making up lines. So that I think was just 100% a scam. And then there was another Discord I joined where they're looking at not candles, but uh, it was let me find it, Heiken candles. And so the idea behind that on like the 1 hour chart is that you want to look at when it's oversold on multiple time frames. So let's go over to like right here. Let's go here. So you'd look at, okay, when is it oversold? So you'd add the indicator RSI, relative strength index, and that tells you when it's over or undersold. So this would indicate nothing really, but if it's above this dashed line here at the bottom, that's overbought. Below is oversold. So down here on the 1 minute, you could say right about here, it tapped oversold, and then you have to do the same for the 5 minute, and you'd look at, okay, um, you would have these in multiple windows, not doing something crazy like I'm doing. But let's here. I'll just use today for example, just so I don't have to keep going back in TradingView. Okay, yeah, this is actually a decent example. So on the 5 minute, we were overbought right here, and then on the 30 minute, we were nah, we were basically there. We would call this overbought. It's like almost at the line. We're at like 66, 67. Now this was so you get three time frames, Heiken Ashi, that are saying overbought or oversold, right? So in this case, is 1, 5, and 30 for today. They were overbought, and then you could say, okay, we're going to go into the reverse position because it's a reversion to the mean strategy, and this strategy does work, but it fails more often than I'd like. The win rate is not great. And so what this Discord would say is you start with one option, then you go up to two options, then three or four, and five or six until you actually win. Because there's a lot of times when it's overbought or oversold on multiple time frames that it's just gonna keep staying up there. Those are trend days, right? So the way they get around that is you just go to a later time frame. So we were looking at 1, 5, and 30. Now we have to make sure that 5, 30, and 1 hour are in the overbought or oversold status if we were to fail in the previous three time frames. So here, let's say 1, 5, and 30 failed and it kept going up. Okay, so we'd stop out, and then we'd now wait for the 1 hour to show overbought, and you end up missing a lot of moves, but you also have a lot, like not a great win rate. So, did you find this helpful? If so, like and subscribe.